Hi, Bernie.
Where's Magda?
Coming. She's coming. I heard the Kiddush was very nice today.
Yeah.
Um,
Everybody showed up.
in the rain.
Um,
I'm sure
yeah,
that
that's
you
right.
you had the same delightful experience walking the shul. Oh my God.
Yeah, even with a raincoat, my pants got soaking wet. Crazy.
Correct. And the shoe,
Yeah,
you got the leather in the shoes.
yeah, it's okay. It wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Growing up back east, it's much worse. Walking in the schnee, in the sleet.
But they don't complain about it.
Oh, yes, they
No,
do.
it's never a
They
question.
all,
Go.
they all go to Florida.
Magda,
Hi, how are you? Get a vach.
what?
Sit back. Yeah,
Shavua
sit back. You
tov.
can see it.
I'm
Yeah,
talking to her.
I only see half of you.
What did you say, Magda? I'm sorry.
I said get a vach.
I get the book for you
Get the
too.
book. I thought you meant I read the book.
By the way, I just finished something. Des sent something out that we're supposed to fill out a guest form.
For
Did you
what?
see
Oh,
that?
is that what came on Friday? Harold, did you
Yeah.
tell
Came
me that?
Friday.
Yeah, so
I guess I
Harold,
haven't looked at my email. Could you do
it
me a
took me a
favor?
while.
Can you
It took
send me
me
a
a
copy of your email of that message?
Yeah, I'll put it to you. Yeah,
It took me a while to figure out what to do.
yeah.
So
What is it?
annoying.
What do they want to know?
I'm sending it to you, Bernie.
Okay.
What do they want to know, Magda?
Your mother's maiden name.
I don't.
Your favorite.
It's like it's ridiculous. I'll go.
I
through
just
it with
forwarded,
you.
Bernie. I just forwarded it to you.
Maybe a bigger screen.
Hi, Shavua tov.
Shavua tov.
Walter and Esther.
What sweater are you wearing tonight?
Me?
Yeah.
It's a fashion show.
Oh, another one. Very nice, Magda.
She made it.
Huh?
Magda made that sweater.
Yeah,
Huh?
sure.
I didn't make anything.
Tammy, do you knit?
I used to.
Yeah.
I've done everything, believe me. I'm very, I was very handy with my hands, but anyway.
Stop it, tasty.
Shavua tov. Shavua tov.
Shavua tov. Get a vach.
I hear you laughing, Walter.
Hello.
Hi.
That lovely Schmeichel.
Hi, Mario.
Hello.
What are you looking for?
Good. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, where are we up to?
We are in Perek Bay's Pasuk Aleph. We finished Perek Aleph last week.
Mhm.
That was me.
Okay.
Was that nice of me? Hi, Tony. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pasuk Aleph. Achar Advarim Ha'eleh. After the events that occurred, remember the Achashverosh is going to rule for 14 years. In the third year of his reign, it was when he did the party and when Vashti was killed. 9 years later, 12 years later, is going to be the problem with Haman. So we are 9 years before the problem. But we're in the third year of Achashverosh's reign, after he killed Vashti. So Achar Advarim Ha'eleh, K'shoch Hamas HaMelech Achashverosh. He remembered that he had given an order that Vashti should come to the party without any clothes, and that she had refused, and he had got angry, and he put her to death. We said last week that her head was cut off and was brought to the party on a platter. And he obviously regretted it. Because it says, Zachar is Vashti ves asher asasa, ve'es asher nigzar aleh, and what he had decreed. Now, the Medrash explained that Vashti deserved all of this. Number one, before Achashverosh, Koresh had allowed the Jews to go back to Yerushalayim and start building the base of Mikdash. But under the advice of Vashti, Achashverosh put a stop to it. So that's number one, why she deserved punishment. We talked about other midrashim that she made Jewish girls work on Shabbos, also unclothed. Vashti would give Achashverosh trouble and said, listen, my father or grandfather, Nebuchadnezzar, destroyed the base of Mikdash. You're going to rebuild it? So, but Achashverosh had second thoughts. And he didn't have his wife. He didn't have a queen. There's a medrash that says that the 7 officers that had given the advice about what to do with Vashti, he hung all of them. Of course, according to the opinion that Memuchan was Haman, it goes against that, right? Because he was not hung. Maybe the other ones were hung, and we see Haman was a very cunning person. He eventually gets hung too, because at the second party that Esther does, he eventually gets hung. So it could be that it was fulfilled with all of them. Pasuk Beis. Vayomru Nari HaMelech Mishrasav. The page are the people who work in the palace. These are the Nari HaMelech. And they gave, it says, Yivakshu LaMelech Naros Psulos Tovos Mareh. We should look for the king, beautiful young maidens, Basulos, women who have not had relations before. The Pekidim, I'm sorry, we're not yet to the Pekidim yet. Okay. Now, it's a little strange. Usually kings get married through shadchanos. They marry other princesses. To just take a commoner is a little strange. But again, this is part of the process that brings Esther to him. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. So it's the Ratzon Hashem. So he agreed. Achashverosh agreed to the advice of the Narim. Even though these women are not going to have any yichus, it says in Gemara Megillah Yud Beis Amud Beis Amarav, Kol Arum Yaseh Bedas Uksil Yifros Iveles. Kol Arum Yaseh Bedas, somebody who is cunning, because the word Arum doesn't just always mean naked; it means sometimes cunning. Zed David refers to David HaMelech. In this week's Haftorah, Dichsi Vayamru Lo Avadav Yivakshu Larani HaMelech Nara B'Sula. As David gets old, they find a woman to warm him up. He had a disease that he was very cold. The Torah says he didn't have relations with her. The Haftorah says lo yida'ah, but she was a sochenes. She sort of warmed him up. That was Avishaga Shunamit. Now, what was the announcement made there? Says the Gemara, Kol man da'avale barta aisei ni'ala. Whoever has a daughter should bring her forth. And then when the pasuk in Mishleu says uksil yifros ivel Achashverosh, d'chsiv yavkeda melech pkidim, and what happened there? Kol man da'avale barta itmer minei. Every man who had a daughter hid her. And that's why they needed Kidim to go out and search. By David HaMelech, they brought willingly. David only wanted one. And therefore, every man came to maybe his daughter could be the one that's going to be with David HaMelech. But Achashverosh commanded that all the women brought to her. Everyone knew he was only going to choose one, yet he's going to have relations with all of them. So then every father kept the daughter under lock and key. And by the way, in the Gemara also mentions that Avishag Shunamit was appointed to sort of watch over the treasury. Only to the Melech did they tell the Melech himself that she will provide warmth. But it wasn't known publicly. It was hidden. Another reason why the fathers didn't have a problem bringing their daughters. But everyone knew what was the point of the Achashverosh beauty pageant. So, Pasuk Gimel, V'yavkeda melech pikidim b'chol medinos malchuso. So he appointed commissioners. These were local commissioners chosen from each of the 127 provinces, not from Shushan. Why? A local commissioner would more readily be able to find the most beautiful girls in his province. They know the lay of the land. So that's the Bekidim in every B'chol Medinos Malchuso. The Betzuet Kol Narab Sula Tovasmara, they're going to gather every beautiful young maiden, and they'll bring them al Shushana Biral Beis Anashim. They'll bring them to the harem. Who was in charge of the harem? Al Yad Gai Sri Samelech, either an officer or a eunuch, somebody who'd been castrated. V'nason Tumrukehen. And the point of being in the Beis Anoshim, they would get cosmetics, they would get perfumes. These girls were snatched, says the Me'am Loez, against their will. And why did Hashem subject the Persian women to the humiliation of being taken to the king and then rejected in favor of Esther? The Persian women used to pour contempt on the Benos Yisrael, calling them ugly and saying none would look at them. So it's almost like a midah keneged midah. Pasuk Daled. The girl who pleases the king will become the queen instead of Vashti. Vayitav adavar b'nei hamelech vayaskein. And Achashverosh followed it. He sent out the commissioners. He told these commissioners not to make their mission known, to go by their normal routine, whatever they do when they go and check out the Medina. They secretly compiled a list of where the beautiful girls were. Then another set of officers were sent to round them up without warning, and they were taken because the beautiful girls were hiding and fleeing because they knew exactly what was going on.
Why? What's wrong to be the wife of the king? What's the...
So Tzvi, we said before that he was going to have relations with all of them and only marry one. Then you have a rule, anyone who is used, the Sharvito Shalmelech they would not be able to get married to anybody else. Because once they sleep with the king, nobody else is allowed to have relations with them. So this was known. So that's one of the reasons, as the answer to Tzvi. Pasuk Hey. So there are 3 verses in the Megillah where the Balkore stops and everybody announces these psukim first. They read them out loud. There's Pasuk Ish Yehudi, the Pasuk of La Yehudim Haisa Ora, And at the end, Ki Mordechai HaYehudi, the last pasuk in Megillah. Why do we do that? So number one, Pirsume Nisa, it popularizes the miracle. And these psukim express the essence of the miracle that happened through Mordechai. Some say to keep the children alert, prevent them from dozing off, just like that's some of the reasons why we do the Manishtana. Or the congregation expresses an expression of joy of the day. Of course, the reader has to repeat it because the din is you have to, each verse that a person hears has to be read from the Megillah. So let's read the pasuk. Ish Yehudi haya b'Shushana bira. Ushmo Mordechai ben Yair ben Shimi ben Kish ish Yemini. So first of all Jews who were exiled, along with Tzidkiyahu Melech Yehuda, were called Yehudim. That became the general word. Instead of calling them in Ivri, they called them Yehudi, regardless of what their original tribe was. That's what Rashi says here. Al Shagalu im Golus Yehuda. Kolosan Shagalu im Melcha Yehuda Yukrim Yehudim. Ben Agoyim. Vafilu Mishevet Acher. When it says the word Ish, the Medrash compares him to Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Equal to Moshe Rabbeinu, because it says Va'ish Moshe Anav Ma'od, and Ish Yehudi, the Ish is the connection. Now he was a member of the Sanhedrin, Mordechai Bilshan. Every Sanhedrin had to have at least 2 members that spoke 70 languages. Mordechai was one of them. And this leads to one of the miracles that he overhears Bigson Vaseresh. Nobody else understood their tongue, and he did. Now, when it says Haya b'Shushani bira, so Rav Yonasan Eibshitz in Yaros Advash says he acted as a Jew not only in the privacy of his home, not only in the base medrash, but even in Shushan, in the street, among the people. That's the emphasis of B'Shushana Bira. Now, throughout Tanakh, usually by tzaddikim it says Ushmo Mordechai, the name and then the name of the tzaddik. By wicked people, their name is done first, like by David HaMelech, Noval, right? It says Noval Shmo. Or it says Goliath Shmo, right? Goliath who David killed. Or Sheva ben Bichri Shmo, one of the, who also caused like a revolt. But by tzaddikim, for example, it says about Shimshon's father, Ushmo Manoach. Or by Shmuel, it says Ushmo Elkanah. Or when it was first introduced, it says Ushmo Shmuel. Or Ushmo Boaz, Ushmo Yishai. Similarly here, it says Ushmo Mordechai. Why? Because it says Ushmi Hashem lo nodati. So the name of the creator, it also says Ushmi Hashem. So by that tzaddikim, they're introduced by the name Ushmo Mordechai. That's from the Medrash Rabbah. Now Mordechai, the Gemara brings where in Chulin 13a, where is Mordechai alluded to in the Torah? It says Mar Dror. When we mention how do you make the incense, the ketores, one of the ingredients is Mar Dror, and the Onkelos there says Mira Dachya, which is the same spelling and sound. It resembles Mordechai. And just as myrrh, which is Mar Dror, is the foremost of spices, so was Mordechai the tzaddik of the generation. Now, he's eventually called Yemini, so he's from Shevet Binyamin. And he's specifically Ben Yair, Ben Shimi, Ben Kish. He wasn't a direct descendant, that wasn't his father, he was descendant of them. That means Shaul ben Kish, right? So, and Shimi ben Gera, which we already learned in last week's, that was a special. David HaMelech had kept Shimi ben Gera alive, even though he had cursed David. Kilalanim Retzes. Eventually, David tells Shlomo Melech, we read in the Haftarah Parshas Vayechi, that Shlomo was supposed to kill Shimi, but he kept Shimi alive until the time when Mordechai could be born, or at least that mother could be born. So the Me'am Loa says that only a descendant of Binyamin deserved to be instrumental in saving the Jewish people, because Binyamin was the only brother who didn't participate in Mechiras Yosef. And the descendants of all the other brothers are perpetually punished. This also helps, since we said Kish references Shaul HaMelech, because he's Shaul ben Kish. So Shaul had let Agag, Melech HaMolech, escape that one night. And he had relations, and then that's why we call Haman Hagagi. So in a sense, Mordechai saving the Jewish people sort of atones for what happened to his ancestor Shaul HaMelech. The Gemara in Megillah, Yud Beis Amud Beis, asks, "Maika Omar, Ili Yechusuka Asili Yachsav Azla Binyamin." I mean, take him, if you want to tell me what his yichus was, okay, take back all of his father and the father and the father, all the way to Binyamin. Here, what was the selection of these names? So the Gemara says, Kulan al Shmo Nikru. These are all descriptions of Mordechai. Ben Yair, Ben Shehir, Eineim Shal Yisrael B'Tfiloso. He enlightened the eyes of the Jewish people with his davening. Ben Shimi, Ben Sheshama Kel Tfiloso. This is a person, Mordechai, that Hashem listened to his tefillah. Ben Kish, Shehiki Shal Sharei Rachamim V'Niftechulo. He banged on the gates of mercy and it was opened up. So it's a drasha there. Here's another famous Gemara from Megillah Yud Beis Amud Beis. Kari le Yehudi, so Alma Yehudi Kasi. By calling him Yehudi, we would think that he's coming from Shevet Yehuda. But the Kari le Yemini, Alma mi Binyamin Kasi. But then you end up the pasuk and you say he's a Binyamite. So what is he? Amr Rav Nachman, Mordechai Muchter b'ni Musahaya. He was Chashuv, Mordechai, so they wanted to mention the yichus of his mother who came from Yehuda. Because Amr Rav Baruch Chanan Rav Yeshua ben Levi, Aviv mi Binyamin, the Imo mi Yehuda. So his father, he's a Binyamite, because just like if your father's a Kohen, you're a Kohen. If your mother's a Kohen, you're not a Kohen. You follow which Shevet you come from your father. But because he was so chashuv, they wanted to mention that his mother came from Yehud as well. Rabbanan Amri Mishpachos Mizgara Zubazu. Every Shevet was fighting among themselves. Mishpachos Yehuda Omeres Anagarm Demisialit Mordechai. The people from Yehuda would say, we're the cause that he was born. Why? David l'Shimi ben Gera. Because David refrained from killing Shimi ben Gera. But Mishpachas Binyamin Amar Minoi Kasi. But the Binyamin people would say it's from us. Why did he curse? What was going on here with Shimi ben Gera? Shimi ben Gera cursed David when David ran away from Absalom. What did he say? Tzei ish adamim. Leave, you bloody person. Heshiva lech Hashem kol dmei beishol. asher milechas tachtav. You are going to be paid back for all the blood that was spilled in the time of Shaul. Vayitein Hashem esamlucha biyad Avshalom bincha. And your kingdom is going to be given to your son Avshalom. Ki ish dami masa. So you see, Shimei wanted to blame David all of the blood that Beis Shaul spilled. For example, when he killed out Nov Ira Kohanim. And it was Shimei's opinion that David HaMelech should be treated as a Moired b'Malchus because he was rebelling against Shaul. And for that reason, the Kohanim in Nov Givon were killed. All of this, Shimei claimed, was the blame of David. He didn't know that secretly, remember, we learned in Malachim, we learned in the beginning of Shmuel, that Shmuel HaNavi came to the house of Yishai and anointed David secretly. Shimei didn't know that. So when David sort of holds back and doesn't kill Shimei and tells, because his officers wanted to kill Shimei, he is Moishel Berucho and Bigvura. That's the real Melech, a Melech over his Midos. And maybe he also knew that out of Shimei would come eventually Mordechai that would save Klal Yisrael. The Zohar says that. The Yalkut Shimoni says, "L'tzipa David she'asid laholid Mordechai." He said, "Hayom lo yamut ish mi-Yisrael." Who's the ish? Referring to ish Yehudi, because he says over there by Shimei, "Lo yamut ish mi-Yisrael," and ish should not die. The pasuk psat there is that he's not going to kill Shimei, but it's a prediction that the ish Yehudi Mordechai is going to be born. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu LeDavid, Ata yitzalta l'Shimei b'shvil sheyoyled es hatzadik, al shiftecha ani koisfoy. I'm going to then call him an ish Yehudi about your shevet. Shenemar ish Yehudi alav nemar zecher tzadik livracha. When you mention the tzadik, it should be libracha. But the concept when we say David Melech Yisrael, he was a moishel. He's a melech and a moishel on his inner thoughts. The Yalkut Shimoni says that Shimei's wife gets credit, that Mordechai and Esther came out of Shimei. Because Tzadok and Evyasar HaKohen were running away from Avshalom. When they found the door of Shimei ben Gera open, and they went in and the wife of Shimei hid them in the board and covered it. And she sat there. She took her sheitel off and sat there. And when the servants of Avshalom came, she said, "There's nobody here." They wouldn't open up that be'er because she's sitting there. So she gets the credit that Mordechai and Esther came from Shimei. Anybody else have any comments on this important pasuk? Okay, pasuk vav. Asher haglam Yerushalayim. Im hagolah asher haglasa im Yechanya melech Yehuda. Mordechai was part of the exiles that came with Yechanya melech Yehuda. Some say Mordechai went into exile even before the rest of the people, so he could establish an atmosphere in Persia so the Jews could survive, just like Yaakov was sent down to Egypt before his children were enslaved, so there would be Kedusha there. So he was like a sentinel that's sent down there. Asher Hegla Nebuchadnezzar Melech Bovel. Vayhi Omein es Hadassa. The word Omein means reared them, constant supervision, and ministering like a mother of a child. So Mordechai, even though he was a famous member of Sanhedrin, did not hesitate to perform those services for the child Esther. He Esther Bastodo. Esther, this was his uncle's daughter. Ki ein la av va'em. She had no mother and father. Va'nara yefas toar v'tovas mareh. She was beautiful. Uvamos avia v'ima lekacha Mordechai lo levas. Mordechai adopts her as a daughter. So the word Hadassah, is that her real name and Esther was added later? What is her real name? Both describe her virtues. Hadass is a myrtle, which is a beautiful plant. Esther also means stahar, as beautiful as the moon. Just as a hadass has a sweet smell but a bitter taste, so Esther was sweet to Mordechai but bitter to Haman. Minayin le'Esther min ha'Torah, ki haster astir ponai mehem. Pasuk in Dvorim, that I'm going to hide my face. Because we've talked a lot before that the whole story of Purim takes place, it seems like naturally, without the hand of God, unless we look deep. And it looks, at the beginning, when the evil decree comes to the Jewish people, it looks like Hashem is being master his punning. The Gemara in Megillah 13a says, when it says, Ulamos avia v'ima, so her father died while her mother was pregnant with her. And the mother died in childbirth. So she was born without parents. Now, the Tan in the name of Rav Meir says, don't read it levas, ela labayis, for a wife. So, according to Chazal, Esther becomes Mordechai's wife. Esther becomes Mordechai's wife. Now, this word omein also references providing parnasa. There's a famous medrash that Mordechai grew breasts and he nursed Esther like a mother. He had milk and he nursed, and the Gemara there says, Rab Shimon Elazar, cholav zachar is tohor. Milk that comes out of a male is kosher.
Right?
Niftechu lemordechai shnei dadim kedadei isha. The pasuk in Shir Hashirim says, "Achos lanu ketana v'shodayim ein la." We have a sister, and she has not grown breasts yet. Amrav Yochanan zu elam, shezachsa lilmod v'lo zachsa lelamed. The Jews who lived in Elam learned but didn't teach. There was Anias B'Torah. And Daniel, it says in Daniel, Ani b'Shushana b'Rasher be'Elam HaMedina. So in Mordechai's time, they were not Oisik B'Torah. So, and also, there's not, the teaching of Torah is also like giving milk from breasts. Bavel was zoichet to be able to teach. And there's a pasuk in Ezra that talks about the difference between Bavel and Elam. How old was Esther here? So Yalkut Shimoni says, Rav Amar Bas Arboy Maisa. She was 40. Ushmuel Amar Bas Shmoini Maisa. She was 80. And the Chachamim say Bashivim Va'arba, which is the gematria of Hadassah. And the Medrash says, in the name of Rav Nechemya, Amar Kodesh Baruch Hu Avraham Avinu, Atayat Sata Mebeis Avicha Mecharan Ben Ayin Shana. Avraham Avinu left Charan when he was 75. Afani Mami Goel Mimcha Ben Ayin Shana Hadassah. So the Targum also says she was 75 years old. So she left also early with the exiles of Yechanya, which is the same golus that Mordechai came with. And that stems with everything. Now the Gemara in Megillah, when it talks about Va'nara Yefas Toar V'tovas Me'od, it says Esther Yirak Rakros Haisa. She was, and my mother would say, sie is gewein vergrient. Yirak Rak is green. So it implies that her beauty was not necessarily physical beauty. Ella, the Gemara says, Chut shel chesed nimshach aleh. She had charm. She had chen. The Gemara says, Vaksiv yifas Torah tevas mareh. Ella shahaisa Yirak Rakros machmas tzara ve'evla shabali de Achashverosh. She lived on tremendous pressure, living in Achashverosh. She's married to Mordechai, she's married to Achashverosh, and the pressure with Klal Yisrael. So she looked bad because of the tzor she was under. Zeh yistir es yofyaha amitit. That hid her true beauty. And she had Yiras Shamayim. That's how she had that tremendous chut shel chesed. Someone who has chen, someone who is charming, you should know that he's a Yiras Shamayim. You don't get that without that. Pasuk Ches. Vayibi Shamad Varamelch V'daso. So they published the decree about all the Jewish girls, about all the girls to be gathered for Achashverosh. Uvikavetz naros rabos al Shushan bira. They're going to be gathered in Shushan. El Yaregai. Vatilakach Esther Beit Hamel. She was taken. So the Meforshim are going to learn that they took married women too. According to the Pshat, that Mordechai was married, that Mordechai was married to Esther, that didn't prevent Achashverosh from taking all the women that he wanted. That he took married women as well. So Esther was taken, Vatilakach Esther, again, that follows the Pshat that we've been learning, that these Pekidim came, everybody was hiding their women, and they were actually found and brought against their will. And Mordechai had tried to hide Esther, but she was taken to the harem by force. And by the way, I guess there were rumors about the beauty of Esther. So they told the king, and they said, that she's not in the first bunch of women that we gathered. So the Melech issued another decree that any basula that is found being hidden is going to be put to death. So when Mordechai heard about the second decree, he sent Esther to the marketplace. And they found her in the shuk. And she was taken to Beis Hagai from there. And by the way, the fact that she was taken against her will is the heter how Esther could end up being the wife of Achashverosh. And the question is, don't you have an obligation to be moiser nefesh, to kill yourself and not to violate the Gimel Averis, murder, sexual immorality, avodah zarah, you're supposed to put yourself to death. However, especially with other Averis, even if it's done before Hesia, you're supposed to put yourself to death. So the Gemara asked that question, Sanhedrin Ayin Daled, Rabaya Esther Karka Oila Maisa. Whenever she had relations with Achashverosh, it was against her will. And Rava says, Hanos Atzman Shiny. When they do it for their own pleasure, then you don't have to give up your life for that. Rashi, in explaining what Karka Oilam means Eina Oisa Maisa. She just lies there. She doesn't do any action. Hu Oseba Maisa. The male does the action. And therefore, Esther had to be very careful every time she was with him not to make any movement and not to participate at all. And by the way, that itself is putting her into danger. But that's what she did. And if the goy is having relations not to, have the woman change her religion just for her own anah, then there's no chilul Hashem. And you don't have to put yourself to death for that publicly. Now, you could ask, we know that the Gemara Megillah gives 7 women who were Nevi'im. Sarah and Esther's included there. So why didn't Esther machmir on herself? She might not be obligated, but she should go lifnei Mishur Sadin as a Nevi'ah. So a lot of the Meforshim say that Mordechai and Esther understood that the fact that she's taken as the queen, that's got to be plan of Hashem. And this is some kind of hachana for an eventual Yeshua and Hatzol of Klal Yisrael. And that's why she didn't go ahead and Moiser go beyond the din, which she wasn't required to do. Now, let's ask another question. Why did Yeshua of Klal Yisrael have to be done in this very ugly, on the surface, what appears to be an ugly thing? A Jewish girl has to be taken king by a Persian king. Why couldn't it come through some other mechanism? Eventually, they're going to give birth to a child. He's going to be the king of Persia. I mean, that's also, it's a pagam that he has to grow up among the goyim. He did a good thing. He let Klal Yisrael rebuild the temple, but he becomes the Persian king. So, some want to answer like the Gemara in Brachos, Daled Amud Aleph. Amru Chachamim Ru'uyim HaYisrael Asos Lem Neis B'mei Ezra, K'derech Shenasa Lem B'mei Yoshua ben Nun. When Koresh gave permission, and Ezra brought people up to Eretz Yisrael, there was supposed to be a nace like happened in Yoshua. Ela Shagor Machet. The question is, what chet? So Rashi in Sota says, Chata'ei Bayis Rishon. So Rav Yaakov Emden, the Yavitz, says that in Bavel, the Jewish men married Goyish women. And this was a problem when they came up with Ezra, Kol Eila Nasu Noshim Nachrios, V'yesh Mem Noshim Lasimu Banim. They had children from these Goyish women who didn't convert. And later on, we're going to learn in Sefer Ezra how they were misaking this. So that's why the nace of Esther had to occur in this way. This, it's sort of seeming like an ugly and certainly troublesome for Esther and Mordechai Yehudi. This is the Klal Yisrael stood on this level. The Jewish people had not separated themselves properly from the Goyim. So the Yeshua occurred this way as well, in order like for a Jew to have a connection to a non-Jew. In Mitzrayim, the redemption of Mitzrayim is just the opposite. We're told nobody had relations with the Egyptians, just that one woman who eventually gives birth to Shaul ben Aknah, the one Maisa in the Chumash, where it says that there was immorality. But Esther is Sof Kol Anisim. And here the Jewish people were mixed with the Goyim. And now we have to have mamish, the reverse of what was in Mitzrayim. Pasuk Tes. Vatitavan ara be'einav. Haggai, which was in charge of the harem, the girl pleased Haggai. Vatisa chesed lefanav. Where else do we see a story where somebody was found to have chen and it made it easier for her, right? When Yosef is sold to, right, there also says Yosef had chen and the master there did everything very good for Yosef. Here's the same story. Vatitavan ara be'einav vatisa chesed lefanav. Vayivahelis tamrukea v'smanotea. He prepared the cosmetics, that manotea, the delicacies that are going to be presented for her to eat. Lo seisla, ve'esh sheva ha'ne'aros, haru'uyos lo seisla mibeis hamelech. She was given 7 special maids. We'll see what that purpose of that was in a minute. Vayishanea v'snaroseha l'tov beis hanashim. He transferred her and the maidens to the best quarters in the harem. So the Gemara says, so we're told that the palace of Achashverosh had no windows. It's like Vegas. You don't know the time. You don't know, is it day? Is it night? They're supposed to keep you gambling all the time. So the palace of Achashverosh is the same thing. So how is Esther going to know about Shabbos? So she gave each one of the maids a different name. Your Sunday, your Monday, your Tuesday, and we'll see in a minute what the names were given. One was Shabbos. And also, they would be suspicious. Remember, we're going to learn that Esther kept this fact that she was Jewish secret. Now, if they saw her not work on one of the days, so they would suspect that she's Jewish. So therefore, she afraid that her maids would notice that on the Shabbos she performed no work and guess she was Jewish. She appointed a different maid for each day of the week. Those who ministered during the week didn't see her rest on the Shabbos, and the Shabbos maid meanwhile assumed that just as she didn't work on the Shabbos, she didn't work on the other days. Also, Rav Yonasan Eibshitz says this in the Yaros Dvash. So, for example, the names Chulsa was the name for Sunday because the world was created on the first day. So the word Chulsa is from the word Haschala. Then the other name was Rukiasa from the Rakia, which was established on the second day. Genunita, the plants came on the third day. Noharaisa, which means the sun, was made on the fourth day. Ruchashisa, that's the shrotzim that was made on the fifth day. Chorfisa, it means you should be quick. It's a quick. And that was done Erev Shabbos, because you're supposed to be quick to prepare on Shabbos. Reguisa, which means menucha, was the name that was given to her maid on Shabbos. By the way, the Meforshim tell us, how do you Mekayim Zocher es Yom HaShabbos l'Kodsho? Every day when we're in davening and we say Hayom Yom Echad b'Shabbos, Hayom Yom Sheni b'Shabbos, when we read the Shir Shel Yom, that's part of the being Mekayim the mitzvah of Zocher es Yom HaShabbos l'Kodsho. To count the days of the week going up to Shabbos. Now, what did Esther eat in this Beis Hanoshim? Did she not eat something not kosher? Did she prevent herself from eating something kosher? So that's what the Gemara in Megillah Yud Gimel says. Vayishaneh v'snaroseh. Omer Rav shechila machal Yehudi. She ate Jewish food. But Shmuel Omer shechila kadle de chaziri. She ate pig. Rav Yechon Omer zironim. No, she was a vegetarian. And Rashi says kosle de chaziri mutoch onso lo nemsha, because she was forced. How about the people who were in the concentration camps? You gotta eat, you gotta live. You're allowed to. You don't give up your life for kashrus. That's not one of the gimel averas. Tosfos argues with Rashi and says chas v'sholem that she ate chazer. And what the kadli the chaziri means, it means oirev shel chazeres, means it's the head of a cabbage.
You take me in?
Fine, Willow.
Oh, bye-bye. Sorry, I couldn't.
Should I tell my mom about the watch?
Huh?
Should I tell my mom about the watch?
Under the bar. She knows
So we
it's,
can see it's machlokes Rashi and Tosfos whether she ate
the Esquire watch underneath.
non-kosher food or not.
Mario, you need to mute.
Yeah, I did. Sorry,
And we know that the Gemara says
I had a visitor.
HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't even allow the behemoths of tzaddikim to do a sin. So certainly Esther most likely, was vegan or ate, or it was salad and not chaziri. Pasuk Yud. Lo higida Esther, esa maves moladata. She guarded the secret 9 years until Haman's downfall in the 12th year of Achashverosh's reign. She's now getting married. It's 12 months was this process. So in the 3rd year it started. So it's going to be 9 years that she has to keep her secret. Why? So why did Esther's Jewishness have to become secret? Mordechai realized that if Esther was chosen to be queen, it was that she was be instrumental in saving Klal Yisrael from some calamity. That if her origins as a Jew were known, Achashverosh would never choose her, and she would lose her opportunity. In fact, Esther didn't want to get married to Achashverosh. So she thought that by hiding the fact that she was from Sholem Melech, she would be a commoner, and she would be one of the reasons why he wouldn't take her. And the other, Ibn Ezra says, was that she could secretly observe her Yiddishkeit. Because if she had declared openly that she was a Jew, she would have been forced to transgress. And the Vilna Gaon says that Mordechai was afraid that his mishpacha and the Klal Yisrael would be killed for having kept Esther hidden for so long, and not surrendering her voluntarily when she was finally discovered. So, but now that she was made queen, the reason for withholding her identity no longer applied. Yet Esther didn't lo yigida Esther in deference to Mordechai. Ki Mordechai tziva aleh shelo sagid. Mordechai was the one who said not to tell. The Targum says the 75 years that Esther was, she was so modest that no one ever had seen her except Mordechai. Pasuk Yud Aleph. Uv'chayom vayom
Ernie, how old was she when she got married?
75.
Where do we know that from?
The gematria of Hadassah is 75.
Oh, I didn't have it. Okay. Put it in the
And then we know it. I read the few Chazals. I brought a Gemara. Rav said she was 40, and Shmuel said she was 80, and then we bring the Rabbanon that say she was 75.
Must have had a
Yeah,
lot.
But we have this image that she's this like Miss America contest.
Yeah.
young chick. You know?
Obviously, that was okay.
Yeah,
This is
but
a good. I
must
think
be
this is a
no
good.
different.
I think there's a good place to stop today. We covered a lot of ground.
This is disturbing on all levels.
Which part was disturbing? The fact that she's
Like
75.
no,
Like,
yes,
nursing.
besides that. The parts out of Glee are with Mordecai with milk. Oh, please. I don't know. I don't know where they get this from, but it's weird. Even what in Egypt, what
Moshe
they
Rabbeinu.
found a nursing maid to to nurse Moshe Rabbeinu. I don't know. This is disturbing on all levels.
We never heard of this kind of thing before in any.
Ernie, does this exist? Or Ernie, you guys are doctors.
No. Well, there are men can grow breasts. It's called gynecomastia.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
We see it in urology because if you're on certain medication, it can cause breast growth. Usually it doesn't make milk, but it can because it we don't have the hormones prolactin, but people can have certain diseases where the pituitary makes prolactin and they will make milk.
do you ever hear of that?
I have not seen it. I
No,
was involved in
the
removing
medical
breast
judge.
tissue where you do like a
Yeah,
you
I mean,
remove.
saying that he was able to nurse her, that's a little bit of a stretch. I mean,
Yeah, me too. Come on.
okay, it's Chazal, so I accepted. What else can you say?
Because the word Vayhi Omen in Omenet Esti, the word Omenet refers to hiring somebody to nurse the child.
Yeah, so that makes no
So that's what says Omen.
No. It says Vayhi Omenet Hadassah. He Mordechai was an Omen. So I explained the word Omenet refers to people who were so that's how Chazal learned. He nursed her because it says Vayhi Omenet Hadassah. It was Mordechai himself.
I can't argue.
Why doesn't say Bahu?
Yeah, but not if she's 75 years old. What is it?
The word Vayhi Omenet
No, instead of that's feminine.
No, like Vayhi Bimei Achashverosh.
Vayhi.
Vayhi, yeah. Vayhi, look at Pasuk Zion. Vayhi Omenet Hadassah. It's a medrash in Breishis Rabbah. Mordechai Zanu Pirnes. Rav Yudin Pamachas Chazra Kolaminikos Vlomatzala Esther Leal. He was going around looking for a nursemaid for Esther. And he couldn't find Hayamenikahu. It's a nace, a miracle. We're talking about there was no food for her. So his breast opened up to feed her. Balochala v'hayamenika. That's a medrash rabbah.
So Ernie, if Esther was 75, how old was Mordechai?
So Mordechai was
125, 135?
No, why do you assume he's that much older?
Remember, they were first cousins. They were the same generation.
How can he be? He had to be old. He brought her
Okay.
up.
They were not the same
He brought her up. He
generation.
had to be.
Yes, they
25
were.
years
They were
old.
both
He had to be
Ben
25 years
Dodo.
Okay,
old.
so hang on.
He must have been
No.
25 years older
Time
than
out.
her.
Vayhilo levas. So one opinion is that he raised her as a daughter. It's only Rav Meir that says she was his wife.
Okay.
So there's two different opinions, two different mahalchim that we have to keep in mind all along. So if it was a daughter, then we understand that he was significantly older because it says he was bas dodo. She was the daughter of his uncle.
So that means she was really a cousin.
Yeah, Bas Dodo.
I thought
Yeah,
she was a niece, but now I see.
they were the same generation.
Right, because remember, Daniel was 15 years old when they left with Yechanya, so it's now 70 years have gone by. So let's say he was 90, right? That's probably right. He because he's about the same age as Daniel. And Daniel was 15 when he came out. We learned that. So Esther's a little younger.
And Jose is spelling love for her? Wow.
Oh, we're wondering how did Achashverosh fall for a 75-year-old?
Yes.
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter.
How old was Achashverosh?
150.
No.
He couldn't see.
He wasn't interested in her physical beauty. It was her.
Yeah, right,
her
right.
media.
Yeah, right.
Her bank account.
That's why she had such an easy time in the
He
bed.
probably had cataracts.
Okay, I think I'm